already you can picture the situation. It wasn't so favorable even to welcome a visitor. I guess hata wako ameamka, so umenok mlango ya mtu hajaamka, nyumba ni ndogo. It's so bad. So tukaingia, we requested her that we want to pray for her and then share a word, and then we leave. So when we were sharing, she told us she has no job, and you can see the children are, yeah, you understand. Children around 4 or 5 of the same age, wameachana na maybe 1 year, you understand. Food ni shida. So we prayed, then she told us she has no food. Honestly, we were broke. I had no money to give her, nor was I prepared to go door to door to give money. I was just reading the word of God. So we prayed with Trevor for God to do a miracle. And then we left. So we went to some few houses. Then as we were praying for them, they were offering money. Don't know why. So they gave us some money. One gave us 500 shillings and another one. So when we were coming back, at first I refused the money, but I realized Trevor had taken the money, so we had no choice. I asked Trevor, where are we going with this money? We are not going with it to the camp, so let's think of what we are going to do. So as we were coming back, I told her, I remember the first house that you went, they had no food, and you saw the situation was so pathetic. So Trevor agreed, but before then, I think we had lost some money on the way. When I was telling Trevor, I realized that we have lost the money. So we went back and we found. Then we went and bought them food. We bought them all they told us they lacked. We were able to supplement them. And before then, I could realize it was a miracle. Is when I reached at the camp and I was meditating on how the day has been, and I realized that that was a good testimony for me to give. Amen. Amen.
Thank you for that. And our Sister Winnie has something to share about testimonies. Sister Winnie, you're welcome. The next person should be ready.
Happy Sabbath. Happy day.
Sabbath.
Happy Sabbath.
Happy day.
Happy day.
Happy Sabbath.
Yeah. I realize that nowadays we are being coerced to share testimonies. But I believe we all have something to share. And maybe sometimes the things that happen in our lives, the bad things so overcrowd our minds and our vision that we're not able to see the good things that God has done in our lives. So I'll just read something, then I'll share. Then after that, I hope you also be encouraged to share your testimonies, because I really enjoy listening to testimonies because they're also a powerful way of witnessing. So I'm reading from Ministry of Healing, page 100, paragraph 3. It says, our confession of his faithfulness is heaven's chosen agency for revealing Christ to the world. We are to acknowledge his grace as made known through the holy men of old, but that which will be most effectual is the testimony of our own experience. We are witnesses for God as we reveal in ourselves the working of a power that is divine. Every individual has a life distinct from all others and an experience differing essentially from theirs. God desires that our praise shall ascend to him, marked with our own individuality. These precious acknowledgements to the praise of the glory of his grace, when supported by a Christ-like life, have an irresistible power that works for the salvation of souls. I realize most of you are not paying attention, so I'm reading again. It says, in case you missed it, our confession of his faithfulness is heaven's chosen agency for revealing Christ to the world. We are to acknowledge his grace as made known through the holy men of old, but that which will be most effectual is the testimony of our own experience. We are witnesses for God as we reveal in ourselves the working of a power that is divine. Every individual has a life distinct from all others and an experience differing essentially from theirs. God desires that our praise shall ascend to Him, marked with our own individuality. These precious acknowledgments to the praise of the glory of His grace, when supported by a Christ-like life, have an irresistible power that works for the salvation of souls. So I'll share maybe a testimony on a certain aspect of my life. Then I hope the rest of you will be encouraged to also share yours. So growing as early as I can remember, I have always been a Christian, maybe from childhood, because though I wasn't born an Adventist, but where I was born, my earliest memories can always be traced back to church and always knowing how to pray and growing, then finally converting in high school. But what I will share essentially is not how my work has been, or rather how my work has been when it comes to praying for something and also praying for others. In high school, we used to have a prayer band. It was a ministry, so we could wake up, pray for others, pray for the church, spearhead prayers and all such. Ensure we wake up at 3 to pray for the rest. It was usually a nice experience. And so, this is too loud. Okay. And so what happened, I enjoyed the ministry, yes, and we used to pray, but at that point, as I was growing, as early as when I was around in class 5, 6, 7, things were not going so well with my parents, that is pertaining to their marriage. And as I grew up, at least I had a foretaste of what a happy home was. So at that point, I couldn't fathom why things were going this way. So in high school, of course, as we have a prayer box here too, I was in Pangani Girls, so we usually also had a prayer box, or even as we collect tithes and offerings, it was okay for someone to write their prayer request and drop them in the tithes basket, then we will get it later. So as we would pray, it was always a beautiful experience for people to come back and share testimonies of how God has been faithful, how their loved ones have been healed, how their parents who are not Adventists have converted, they have become Adventists. It was powerful. But now for me, on the other hand, as I was praying concerning the situation at home, so it so used to happen that we open this term and I dedicate myself that I will be fully really praying for it, and I really diligently pray for it. When I go home that holiday, things would be worse than I left them. And then now the next time when I come back, I will even be afraid to pray, because if I'm praying and they get worse, maybe if I pray less, at least they will remain as it were. So maybe that time I will maybe pray or not pray. And indeed, when I'm going home, things maybe are at least better, or they're just the same. So this sent me into some maybe turmoil or some confusion, because you expect that when you're praying, a situation shouldn't be getting worse. It really should be getting better, and it should be for your strengthening. So it continued like that till it reached a point, I think, I grew maybe angry with God somehow. So, but deep in my heart, I knew I was maybe upset with God. But when I'm praying, you see, you pray, you praise the Lord, but that is not what I was feeling in my heart, because maybe I was afraid this is not how God should be approached. So high school ended. It was a beautiful experience aside from that, and we finished, and here I was. It was a long holiday, and also didn't like to be home because I was a convert and my parents hadn't taken that so well. So I knew from December till September, when I shall be joining campus, it meant I'm going to be having only my home Sabbaths at home, because I couldn't be allowed to go to church on Sabbath. So I really didn't know how that holiday would go. So as I guess I joined campus, then COVID came, but things were really not changing. So at this point in my maybe distancing myself from God somehow, but still trying to hold on, I came across, I think it was a podcast, and she was sharing about Jonah's prayer when he prays to God after God decides that he's not going to destroy Nineveh towards the end of the book. So she was saying that it is okay for us to go to God and tell him our raw feelings, you know. Yeah, if you're angry with him, it will be okay for you to go just tell him, I really feel upset, angry with you, and all that. And for that I felt like, oh, so it's doable and it is not a sin. So I remember one day I just woke up, and that day I prayed, but now for the feelings that had been accumulating in my heart that were maybe negative towards God, because I felt it is not fair that maybe I'm praying for others, he's answering, except what my main prayer request is. Of course, not that I was not happy that he was answering the rest, I was just not understanding why I'm praying, he's not doing anything, and the more I pray, the worse it gets. The less I pray, maybe the better, or some more things remain the same. So for that day, when I reflect back and say for the very first time, you see, maybe the way a child can throw a tantrum, you know? Yeah, so I prayed, and that day, I was like, wow. When I finished, I was like, hey, you've really prayed, but it was more of pouring out the raw feelings of my heart. And after that, somehow, a lot of peace flooded my heart, and of course, things continued. So last year, of course, we came back to school. School continued. So last year, it was sometime in what? Sometime I think in March. So I called my mom. My mom called me. I don't know. So whoever called the other. So as we were talking, whatever she was telling me, then she was like, no, your father said. Then I was like, when you guys nowadays talk, you know? So she was like, no, you just come home, I will tell you what happened. So at that point, I think I grew excited, and I knew at least the years of silence that had existed in the home, maybe they were all over. And God answered that prayer at a time when maybe I had already given up, and I was bracing myself for the worst. So April came. Don't remember whether I went home or I didn't go, whether April or August, whichever. I think I went home. So I went home, and I found out that the prayer that I had so long been praying for, at least there was a ray of light. But at this point now, I was again feeling guilty, because I had kind of stopped praying about it. I had decided to divert my mind and attention from it, and pray about other things. So I was okay. I'm happy, but again I'm feeling guilt. The effort I should have been putting is not the same. So around at that same time, recently, my friend Asnet, so she was sharing an experience with me. So she was telling me that she was really praying for something and praying for others too. So at the time that she expected, God answered the prayers of the people she had been praying for, except her main prayer request. So she decided to, after that she felt bitter, and she decided to, Naja, you acting in defiance. If you had reformed, you unreform. If you are no longer wearing trousers that day, you go buy some and wear. If you are not eating meat that day, you go buy some chicken in Magonas. You feel like these things that I'm doing, maybe they were no longer paying off. So she did that. So after she did that, as she came back, God had answered the prayer in the exact way she had expected, and she had decided to maybe go on and do whatever she felt. So as she was sharing her sentiments with me, she was telling me that during that week she was even feeling afraid, hadi naezenda tu Mungu tu animalize tu, naeza tu toka nikivuka highway, gari nipige causeway. God has answered, but in the little time that I was supposed to wait, I had decided to just do my own things and be unhappy with God and undo the good things that I had done in my life. So with that, I could somehow resonate to her. So what has been my take home from this? My take home is that in all those years, maybe people could ask, maybe come share testimony, but I don't have. Not because I didn't have, but because my mind was so focused on what I was praying for and it was not happening, that I could not longer be able to see God in the beauty of his character. And that is maybe majorly what happens with us. You find that if you're really maybe praying for something, it is not happening that way, and in your heart maybe it is something major and so important to you, you tend to focus so much on it, such that the great things that God does, you kind of tend to ignore them, you just say thank you for the sake of it. So my prayer is that as trials come our way, as maybe our prayers may seem not exactly to be answered as we expect them, and at the very time that we expect them, it has been my prayer that God will help us to be grateful for the scars that those challenges leave in our lives, because we should really be thankful for those scars, because if they have not been there, then maybe we could not be the very same persons. And it has also been my prayer that wherever our hearts are bleeding, wherever someone has inflicted pain, experiences have inflicted pain, I had been praying that maybe I forget. Then I realized it's so hard to forget. You just can't forget. So I decided to change my prayer that God heals me through the pain, so that when I remember that very same thing, I'm no longer remorseful about it, but I can look back and say that God in the midst of it has still been faithful, that the scar is no longer a wound that is bleeding, but just a scab that is reminding you that you were once somewhere and God has brought you here. May God bless you.
Thank you so much, Sister Winnie. Okay. Thank you so much for that. That was a good one. I hope all of you have seen that. Simona, the Spirit is still leading. Anyone? Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you. I'm not a member of this church. I am from Rwanda. I am participating in the organization of 10th Africa. I'm participating in the organization of 10th Africa University Games that are going to take place, hosted by KU. I think you might be aware. Thank you, sister, for giving me this opportunity to give a few testimony. I have many, but I think I would focus on the most relevant to the population that we have here, who are students. My name is Turikumana Etienne. I work for two organizations. I work for University of Rwanda as a career guidance specialist. I also work for FASU as in charge of university sports development. I studied physical education and sports. When I was studying physical education, I was born in an Adventist family, raised in an Adventist family, so I value the Sabbath so much. And I know it is very important that we keep the Sabbath as much as we can. And I found myself doing sports, studying sports. And when I was in year 2, the question came in my mind, and I asked myself, how will you do sports? And then you are Adventist. How will you manage Sabbath and sports? I had my colleagues Adventists in the same class. Now we're starting having some small jobs during weekends, and some of them would go for referring, for coaching. You see, those things are mostly done on Sabbath. And the question was traumatizing me so much that sometimes I couldn't sleep, wondering how will I be able to keep the Sabbath? One of my colleagues, he was not Adventist. We were on our way coming from the stadium, and he came to me and asked me, Etienne, you are not serious. How can you study sports and then on Sabbath you are not coming to work for money? How are you going to make up in your profession? And that question was really true. He was my colleague, he was my friend. So I jumped from one side of the road, went to the other side so that I can not hear him. But he followed me up there. Now, when he followed me up there, I also could not get answer to his questions. But now, what were the answers? I kept studying while other students were making money. So they were making money every weekend, and they were telling me, now you're going to be useless. When I was moving from the third year to fourth year, you see the last year you must be prepared for the field. Now, Rwanda hosted the under 17 Africa and Africa under 17 championship for football, CAN. Now, I got a small job in that organization. Someone called me and told me, one of our teachers told me, Etienne, I know you can do this. Please kindly help me. So I was supposed to work from Wednesday up to Sabbath. I told him, I'm not working on Sabbath. He told me it's okay. Sabbath, it's opening day. You are just preparing people who are going to participate in the opening ceremony. So you don't need to come here. So I got a very good deal. Now I made money. Now that particular student, the next class he came and told me, you know, you people, the man you have worked for 3 years, Etienne got it in 4 days. It was really a good deal. But why I'm bringing this, sometimes we don't know what is next. So when I graduated, I was wondering, how am I going to get a job? I took my phone, called one of my friends. He was not that close to me. I was close to his brother because we were staying in the same house, in the same room where I was renting as a student. His bigger brother, he was working at the university. So I called him to wish him Happy New Year and excuse myself because I had not attended his wedding. But when I finished, I said, if you find a job, please tell us. He told me, but you have a first class. I told him, no, I don't. But I'm working at the university and we recruit only people with first class. But he said, what did you study? I told him sports. I said, our sports person has resigned. Now, when it was time for application, I was informed, then I applied. God helped me get the job at the university. Now, when I got the job, it was a very nice job. No one was bothering me. But I was wondering, if my teams are called to participate in the games on Sabbath and I don't go, what will happen? And there's one particular time I told in my mind, let me go with this team. I will not go to the game. I will go to worship with the students in the other campus where I'm going. But when I went, my mind was not in the church. It was outside in the game. And my team lost terribly. 7-0. Now, I came and confessed. I said, now I will never do it again. You know, sometimes Satan tells us, if you don't do this, people will chase you or whatever. Now, I said, now whoever is calling my team, that time I was in charge of sports, now I'm not in charge of it. I got promoted somehow. But during 5 years that I worked as a sports person in the campus, everyone who called me for the games on Sabbath, I told him, you will not get me, you will get other people, and I will be back home worshiping because it is Sabbath. And throughout the year, I started in 2012, my bosses never complained about me. I got a chance to participate in Africa University Games when I was still a sports person. Then because I can speak French and English, the Africa University Sports Federation wanted me to work with them. So I worked with them under condition. I'm not working on Sabbath. That's what I told them. They agreed. I was amazed they agreed. Wherever they have games in any country, they pay my ticket, they pay my allowance, they pay me monthly, but they know on Sabbath I don't work, I go to worship. And I want to praise God for that. That throughout my career, when I was faithful to God, God was faithful to promote me to the level I am on up to now. And He has protected me so far, where things looks impossible. Doing sports, combining it with Sabbath, up to now, God has been protecting me. And that is a positive testimony. I want to end with one that sometimes I think I don't have enough time to elaborate in many things. I and my wife, we are working in the same campus. I'm sorry I didn't say, I'm married. I have one boy. He's now 5 years. We are working in the same campus. When I was I moved from sports officer to dean of students. Then I moved back to career. It is not on the same level. When I was working as a dean of students. I was working in a campus very close to my home area, where I could visit my parents, my mother, where I could visit, and I was even close to like 500 meters from my mother's-in-law. Now, they shifted me back to very far, and I was wondering, why God? Why am I moving this way? Now, when I got there, my wife is an engineer. She was looking for a job, and our university has 9 campuses. So she applied to be a plumber. Now, she got selected, passed. They needed